In this video, we're going to tell you a little bit about the Battle of Point Pleasant and our experiences at
the reconstructed Fort Randolph.
Well, hello there, parapeeps, and welcome to another episode of Our Haunted Travels. I am your host, Sean Donnelly.
And I'm your co-host, Marianne Donnelly.
We're going to kind of cram in two different things here in this one, but we're going to keep it short. We're going to keep it short. We're going to talk a little bit more about the Battle of Point Pleasant, and we're going to tell you about the reconstructed Fort Randolph. Mm-hmm. But before we get into that, if you're into the paranormal, history, and forensic type videos,
don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ding that little bell so you'll hear from us next time we post a new video.
We said reconstructed. We didn't know it was reconstructed till we got there. But we'll talk about that here in a little bit.
That's because we didn't do our homework first.
All right, so Point Pleasant. We've already done some videos, and we just finished up the last video about the Curse of Cornstalk. So I'll put a link to that. Bing! You can go check that out. Because we're going to refer to it here a little bit. And our next videos coming out is all about Point Pleasant and how all this relates. And by the time we're all done, we're going to have a nice big playlist. And you can just sit back and listen to us talk about Point Pleasant.
Okay, Sean.
All right, so the battle that took place at Point Pleasant. You want to start out with a little bit of that?
I'm not really a war type person. Like I'm not. Yeah. I don't have any of that. Flanking and turns right here, and I don't have any of that background. I'm not good at any of that stuff. So I'm just going to give you the super basics.
That's what we want. The super basics.
The super basics. All right. So basically, it's known as the Battle of Kanawha as well. Some people call it that. And essentially, this was the pretty much one and only battle of Dunmore's War.
Yeah. This was the end of it.
Right. So there were some problems that were brewing between some of the Native Americans and the British colonialists. And it was all based on some treaties that had been done and some decision over who got to hunt where. And they weren't all happy with it.
Right. So Dunmore said, hey, I'm putting together this awesome militia, and we're going to go down there and take care of business, and we're going to tell these people this is how it is.
However, the Shawnee Indian tribe did not agree. Mm-hmm. And they're like, nope, we're going to cut this off. And they tried to stop it before Lord Dunmore and Lewis were able to get their two military groups together. Right. So the Shawnee basically advanced upon them. Little skirmish happened. It wasn't going so well.
By Chief Cornstalk. We want to mention him again.
That's true.
He took it upon himself to attack Lewis. Now, Lewis, he had 1,000 men that came down the river by boat, while Dunmore was marching over with more men.
Yes, but Shawnee and Cornstalk only had about 300 to 500. Yeah, so
they
were like
about half of that first regiment. So Cornstalk said, "Hey, we're gonna strike first."
Right, before they get together.
So he went after him and his men went after Lewis's camp.
Right.
And guess where all this took place?
Point Pleasant.
Right there, the land that the city is built on. Right there on Point Pleasant.
Yes. Yeah, and it didn't end up turning out so well for the Shawnee.
No.
And they lost quite a few individuals, and they ended up having to retreat.
Yeah. So speaking of not knowing about flanking,
yes,
one of the reasons that they did retreat is because they were going after the militia, trained military men, who actually sent up behind the Native Americans and was, starting to win the battle. And Cornstalk said, whoa, wait a minute. Yes. Wait a minute. I didn't expect that to happen. Right. Let's retreat.
Yeah. And because of the retreat, they were considered to lose.
Yes. Because they retreated.
Right. Yeah. So that's pretty much the basics of
Here's
it, right?
Here's a little side note, too. We keep talking about these British colonialists. Okay? So there was one that actually came down the river and surveyed all the land around Point Pleasant. Guess who it was?
Back in 1770.
1770.
A little before the war.
British colonists came down, encroaching on that hunting grounds. We'll tell you in a little bit.
Ooh, you're going to put him in suspense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So what was the outcome of the battle, so to speak? Okay.
Well, essentially, it was the Shawnee were forced into yet another treaty, and it was called the Treaty of Camp Charlotte. But altogether, there were about 75 of the Virginians, or the British militia.
Virginia militia.
They lost about 75 outright, and they had 140 who were wounded. They're not really sure how many the Shawnee lost, because they took their bodies with them when they retreated, and even had some of them thrown in the river. So they didn't have a good accurate count.
They didn't know exactly how many.
Right.
They did find some after the battle was over. They did find some on the battlefield.
Right.
And
they found 21 of them actually right there on the battlefield.
And some were like buried makeshift graves that they did find. Mm-hmm. They also found many weapons that they collected afterwards, tomahawks and things like that. And they actually turned around and auctioned them off.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But some of the important people you might be familiar with that are tied to this particular aftermath, this battle. One of the Indians, one of the Native Americans who were killed at this battle was actually the father of Tecumseh. Everybody knows Tecumseh, you know?
Yeah.
So his name was Pukinswa.
The father of Tecumseh.
I probably pronounced it wrong, because I'm not really good at that, but that's close enough for me.
Yeah.
But he was the father of Tecumseh. Also, Colonel John Field was there, and he ends up being...
He was an ancestor of George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush.
Yeah.
And he ended up losing his life during the battle as well.
Okay. Yeah. So we had some important figures that were still tied right here to this. We had... Oh, we didn't tell them who it was. I almost slipped. Are we going to do it now?
Yeah. So that British colonialist...
That we were talking about?
George Washington.
Yes. So it was George Washington who came down, surveyed the area, thought it was a great place too. And then, of course, we have the father of Tecumseh killed in the battle, and also Colonel John Field, who ends up being a relative of the Bushes. Yes.
Fort Randolph and how that got established.
Okay,
1776, American Revolution. All right. This is a spot that is very strategic to the West for the Virginians. Okay. They needed to kind of shore up the West side so that they didn't pull one of them flanking maneuvers, on them. So they built Fort Randolph right where the city of Point Pleasant is.
Yeah, where the Dunmore War was taking place just before that.
So, if you caught our previous video, you also know this is where Cornstalk went. And...
Didn't come back.
And they buried him right there. right in the middle of town.
And then in 1777 is when Cornstalk went in, trying to, smooth some things over, and ends up dying in a little skirmish result. Not skirmish result, but in a skirmish backlash.
Yeah, there you go.
You like that? Yeah.
Skirmish backlash.
In any case, eventually they are going to be in a battle again at Fort Randolph. They kind of have a little bit of a push by the American Indian groups in 1778. Things sort of died down a little bit. The fort did withstand that attack, but about a year later, they did abandon that facility. So they abandoned the facility, and it gets burned down. The Native Americans in the area torched it.
I don't blame them.
This was our
that's
land,
a bad,
right?
memory there.
Mm-hmm.
Burn it down.
It was our hunting grounds. You came in, took it over. You killed our leader there. Let's get rid of it. So they burned it down. However, things started to tense up again a few years later, and so they rebuilt it. Mm-hmm. So they came back in the 1780s, 1785. They come back and they would rebuild Fort Randolph, and they being the colonialists, basically, the Virginians. So they come in.
Well, the Americans now.
Well, yes, I guess that would be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they come back in, they rebuild it because they're having some trouble again. Mm-hmm. And eventually they leave it again. Didn't get burned down necessarily this time, but it got run down, like really run down.
It was just abandoned. So there was a little village there and all that other stuff, but in 1804 is when Point Pleasant became the county seat, and they started building the town on the spot where Fort Randolph originally was. Mm-hmm. And, all that stuff took place, the battles, the curse of Cornstalk, everything was like right in the middle of town. Right. In 1973, 74-ish, 200th anniversary of the battle, they actually reconstructed the fort about a mile away from where it originally was. It's not that far out of town. It's just actually right over the the flood wall. Yeah.
The reason they put it so far away, a whole mile. Ooh. But the reason they didn't put it right back where it was the town had really built up.
The town was there. So they couldn't they couldn't put it in.
Right.
If you're ever down there in Point Pleasant, just put that on the list to go out there and see that fort. It's not that far. It really isn't. And we almost didn't do it. Mm-hmm. But I said, hey, we're here. There's the story of Cornstalk and all that other stuff. We got to go see it. And there's placards out there about Cornstalk and the battle and things like that. And it was pretty cool. The only thing is...
And the reason why we really weren't going to go out there.
Yeah. They're closed. They're closed on the weekends.
Who has a facility that's a historical location that people would go to on a vacation or something? They're not open on any weekend.
Right. So we didn't get a chance to go inside. So, the video and the pictures and stuff that we've been showing you while we're talking here.
We took them from outside. I took my little camera, stuck it in, because it's a fort, right?
No, you didn't. Boris did it.
Oh, yeah.
Boris took a camera, went inside, ran around, took some pictures.
Yeah, but they have the log pillars which build the fort, and so I was kind of putting the camera lens in the
No, you didn't. Boris did it.
Try to check out what was going on inside. Right, Boris did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, it was pretty cool to go see. It would have been nice to go inside and see the inside of it, but we didn't have that luxury. We weren't there on the particular day it was open.
Yes.
So
yeah,
that happens.
Yeah, but it was kind of weird to me because it was also in the summer months when we were there. And usually people go on vacations more in the summer, so it would be more apt to have more visitors there.
I bet it's open now with the festival coming up.
They probably
I bet
do.
It's open
yeah.
now.
I'll bet you're right.
Well, Fort Randolph is in the Panic D database, but it's mainly for historical reasons and kind of tied to Cornstalk and the curse and all that paranormal like that. So actual claims at the fort itself, haven't seemed to find any yet, but if you know of any, please leave them down in the comments and let us know, and we'll add them to the database. But it is Panic D number 2071, and you can look that up if you need the address to go out there to the fort.
All right.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Nope, just that I wish we could go inside.
Yeah.
But we weren't able to.
Maybe someday we'll go back and make sure we plan it on the day that the fort's open.
Yeah.
All right, folks, till next time.
Thanks for watching.
And happy hunting. Let us know if you like this video by hitting that thumbs up. Also, if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, support our channel by hitting that subscribe button and dinging that bell so you get notified the next time there's a video from Panic D Videos.
Thanks for watching.
Happy hunting.